All right, hey, welcome again to Age Group Podium Junkies. Today I have James Caroland on the show. James and I have been friends now for a couple of years in Hyrox. He reached out to me a couple of years ago and said, hey, let's do a doubles together. And so we kicked off the 24 season doing Hyrox Open. And then we did a Hyrox Pro, and we actually beat our open time running pro. We beat our open time. But anyway, today I got James Caroland. We're going to talk about him and his Hyrox experiences. So, James, tell me, give me your background, give me your who you are.
Okay. I am 53. I live in Ellicot City, Maryland, which is about 20 minutes outside of Baltimore. I am retired from the Navy after 28 years. I retired a few years ago, and now I do cyber threat intelligence for Amazon. But I enjoy being retired from the Navy so I can focus on my Hyrox racing.
Yes. Um, I see a whole bunch of medals behind you there, James. So obviously Hyrox isn't your only jam.
True. So currently, Hyrox is usually what I'm training for most. But before I discovered Hyrox, I was very big into obstacle course racing or OCR. That's what those medals and such are behind me. Most of those, granted, most of those are participation medals, but there are quite a few podium medals in there as well. I used to run OCR just socially with friends, and then realized I could be competitive in my age group. So yeah, I ran a lot of Savage Race, Tough Mudder, Spartan Race, World's Toughest Mudder. Those are fun. Other local OCR races. So yeah, I was definitely big into OCR. I still like OCR and I still run them occasionally, but mostly now I'm focused on Hyrox and starting to get more into DECA as well.
Yes. Have you always been in fitness, James? Like going back to high school days?
I'd say so, yeah. I grew up playing all sorts of different sports, right? Baseball, football, basketball, and tennis. I kind of settled on basketball and tennis early on. Those became my favorite sports. Played them throughout high school, played them both basketball and tennis well into my 40s until my knees said, okay, that's enough of that. But being in the Navy as well, having a gym at every base that you're at,
Yeah.
and that culture in the military of working out and having fitness, I embraced that pretty early on. And so it's been a lifelong thing for me as far as fitness and sports go.
Yes. Yep. All right. So what is your why? Why Hyrox?
Why Hyrox? I think it's probably twofold. Number one, I just love the challenge, right? I love the competition. Having that sports background, being competitive, I like competing against others, like doing hard things. And the second part is the community. And that's one reason I really liked OCR as well, was the community of people that just help each other out and support each other, and just seeing other people accomplish their goals and get on podiums and hit PRs, and all the camaraderie that comes with the Hyrox community is pretty cool.
Yeah, so many people that I've talked to and I interview, everybody says the community is fantastic, and I completely agree. Everybody supports each other. Yeah, it's fantastic community. How many? You just got done with Miami. What's your tally now? How many High Rocks races under your belt?
As far as just total races, it's 32, including Miami.
32. You're catching up. How
Not too deep,
about?
but you're way up there.
Oh man. How about 32? How many podiums out of the 32 times?
20 podiums.
Oh, nice, James. That's perfect. And obviously, you're going to Worlds this year, right?
I actually declined originally. So I qualified from New York Pro Solo, and then when it came time to commit, I just wasn't sure I was going to be able to do it for a number of reasons, and so I actually declined. But if the opportunity comes up between now and Worlds, I could potentially revisit, going to Sweden. But so right now, I'm not scheduled to go to Worlds, although I did qualify for this year's Worlds.
Yes. Okay. When was your first podium?
Believe it or not, it was my very first Hyrox race. So this was early in 2023, right? So before Hyrox became really popular
Yes, yes.
and a much more competitive field. But yeah, Houston in early 2023. I got out there. I don't think I'd ever pushed a sled before, right? And the sleds destroyed me. I was spent forever in the rock zone. Finished with a decent-ish time and was like, dying and just kind of sitting off to the side. And I heard another guy that looked about my age was talking to his wife about his time, and his time was similar to mine. And he was talking about how he couldn't believe he made the podium. And I was like, maybe I should check, right? And
Yeah.
so I brought up my phone. I was like, holy crap, like somehow I snuck into third. And it was like 3 minutes before the award ceremony. So I like hobbled over to the award ceremony to get my first flag. But yeah, my very first Hyrox, I managed the podium.
Right, right, right. Um, so I know you've raced solo open, you've raced solo pro, right?
Yep.
You've raced mixed doubles, doubles. Do you have a favorite?
Um, Doubles and relay. I mean, despite the chaos of the relay, it's so much fun. But then doubles is really fun too, whether it's mixed or men's. Yeah, I've raced all the categories I'm eligible for. One of my goals last season was to podium in every category that I'm eligible for, and I'm
Yes.
proud to say I was able to do that. That was a lot of fun to be like, all right, open solo check, pro solo check, open pro doubles, relays, etc. So.
Yes. Okay, so what is out of all your races your most memorable race?
Ironically, my most memorable race was my slowest race. It was when I raced with my dad in Atlanta. Grew up in Georgia. He's still there in that area. But at the time, he was 83 years old. And at the time, pretty sure he had the record for the oldest Hyrox athlete to race.
Yes.
So that was really cool to be able to race with my dad. Um, we actually came in second, but full disclosure, we also came in last. There was
Yeah,
only
yeah.
two teams in the 60 to 69 age group, but it was still cool to like be able to have a flag, to give to my dad. And so he did awesome, for 83 years old, and that was certainly my most memorable High Rocks race.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that race. How about when you raced with Amy Bolivica?
Yeah, so that's definitely memorable and my most rewarding in that case, right? It's hard for uh, to have your world champion race not be your most rewarding, right?
Right.
And, that was just a whole that whole season was great for me, and to culminate in becoming a world champion for mixed doubles, in 50 to 59 was just awesome. And big shout out to Amy Bevilacqua, Elite 15 athlete, for taking a chance on me and then dragging me around the track and
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was fantastic last year seeing you guys do that. That was like it's funny you have memorable races yourself, but then you also have those times where you see somebody like you and Amy just give it your all and pull it off, and that was one of my most memorable races of somebody else was watching you two take worlds in that number one at worlds in that age group last year. That was fun.
yeah, no, no, no.
Yep, yep. All right, so favorite venue. I know you've been all over the place racing. What's your favorite venue?
Um, if you'd asked me before Phoenix this year, I would have said Atlanta when we ran, just because it wasn't crowded at all and we could fly around the
Yeah,
track. Um, like nowadays, the track's always so crowded, right? You're
crowded.
always left and whatever. But we had that last heat of the day in Atlanta, and one reason I think we had such a fast pro time was because we were just on that inside lane, like the whole, just cruising around the track. But
Yeah.
now that I've been to Phoenix, I would have to say Phoenix, just because it's so unique, right? Running in the NFL stadium was pretty cool. And then also just outside of the race itself, just all the things like the tailgate they had and other things that made it, worthwhile to be there. But I'd say Phoenix if I had to choose one, just because of how unique it was.
Yes, yeah. Phoenix was pretty special in the arena. That was so cool. Um, all right, so one question that everybody asks is shoes. What shoes do you wear, and how long did it take you to settle on a pair of shoes? How many pairs of shoes have you gone through to finally settle on these are the shoes I like to wear?
Not too many. Once I started kind of asking the question that everyone asks, like, yeah, what shoes do you wear? What shoes should I wear? Everyone was talking about the Puma Deviate Nitros, right? And so when I was looking for new shoes, the three was the latest version. So I tried the three on, really liked it, and that's what I still wear. I bought a few pair of those that I'm kind of rotating through. I have my training vert pair and then my actual race day
Yeah.
pair. But right now I'm still wearing the threes. I have not tried on the new pink Hyrox DV8 Nitro 4s. I do want to try them on and see if I like them, but right now I'm wearing the Puma DV8 Nitro 3s.
All right. All right, that's going to bring me. How old are you, James? You're 52, 53,
53. I'll turn 54 this year.
50, 54 this year. So is age a number?
Um, I don't think age is a number. Like I feel like I may be in the best shape of my life right now, at age almost 54. So am I like actively trying to like reduce what my health age is? Yeah. Like I think I own every recovery tool known to man, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
constantly using the sauna and ice bath and massage guns and going to stretch lab and um, all that kind of stuff, right? Making sure I take all my recovery time and things like that. Um, and of course, avoid injuries, which really suck. But otherwise, I don't feel 53, right? Like I feel like I'm in really good shape
Yes.
these days if I can avoid those injuries. So yeah, I don't think age is that big of a factor. I feel younger than 53 when it comes to fitness.
Yes. Have you ever done any of the tests to determine your biological age? There's a couple different tests out there, but have you ever done any of those at all?
I haven't actually, and now that you mention it, I'm intrigued to actually do that and see what it would say, but I have not done any of those tests.
I have the Whoop MG, and that's the one that gives you, the Whoop biological age or whatever. But something that you could do, if you use Grok AI or any of the AI like ChatGPT or any of those,
Yeah, ChatGPT, sure.
you can put in like your workout, your Hyrox. You can put in several Hyrox race results, and if you have any recent blood work, you can put that in there, and Grok will actually give you a pretty reasonable guesstimate of your biological age. Oh, and also if you have your VO2 max, any data that you feed it in, and then you ask it to give you a biological age, and it's actually pretty close. It Grok estimates me at 40 to 45, and my Whoop says 43.2. And I've done a couple of the actual blood tests that you send in, and they all come back in the 40, 43, 44 range. Yeah.
I'll definitely have to check that out. I wear the Amazfit Helio
Yeah.
strap, but I haven't dug into all the data it provides, and I'm wondering maybe if it actually provides that
Yeah.
calculation
That's
estimate.
another bit of data that you can feed into Grok or ChatGPT, and it'll give you a very, very good estimate. Yeah, it's pretty cool. All right, so what's training like for you? Walk me through your 7 days. What is training like for you?
Well, especially when it comes to Hyrox, half of Hyrox is running, right? I used to be actually heavier with more muscle. I used to be about 185 pounds, and
Yes.
um, that was slowing me down on the runs, though. I needed to find a better balance, and so I sadly dropped a lot of that muscle to get more
Mm-hmm.
leaner, down to about 170, and my running improved. But I also have a running coach. I've had him for a couple of years now. Shout out to Jeff Fairman at Without Limits. He's a great run coach, and he programs my running for me. I don't always get to every session he programs. Sometimes he gets overzealous and he's like, "Hey, run 7 days a week." I'm like, "That's not going to happen." But he does a great job programming, and we'll talk about like when's your next A race? Is it a Hyrox? Is it an OCR? Is it a trail race? or whatever, and he'll program things accordingly and back it up from those dates. So he may have me do hill repeats or just long trail runs or track work, interval work, speed work type stuff. So I try to do a lot of running, but not a ton of volume actually on the running. I'll usually have one day a week that's just strength training, so no cardio. And then I've got all the Hyrox stations in my basement. I have an unfinished basement, and so I'll do a lot of basement workouts where I might do station work or just various stuff related to Hyrox to make me a better Hyrox athlete. And then my gym, the Endurance Factory. Shout out to the Endurance Factory. Oh yeah, I'm actually we're Endurance Factory, where I'm a part-time coach there. But they have with CrossFit classes and something called interval fit type classes, and then the Hyrox classes. And so I like working out as a group, and I'll go to those a couple days a week as well. I'll get in my zone two work, and also usually I have a full rest day in there, along with a lot of mobility work and stretching in between and stuff.
Yes, yes. Any bike work at all? Do you do any biking during the week?
Not biking like on roads or whatever. I've got the assault bike in my basement, and then also a Peloton. Which is remarkably good because you can do like the hill climbs on
Yeah.
like the Peloton and stuff, and really tax your legs pretty well. So I do enjoy jumping on the Peloton occasionally.
Yes, yes. All right. So, have you ever been sick or injured prior to a race?
More times than I can count, unfortunately. Knock on wood, right now, I'm not sick, I'm not injured. But last year, injury wise, I was dealing with posterior tibial tendonitis, which makes it kind of painful to run. So that was a big pain. And then I had some rotator cuff issues in my left shoulder, which made like training for wall balls and other
Yeah.
stuff painful. So those were affecting my races last year. Those are pretty much healed up. Again, knock on wood, I'm good there. And then I don't get sick often, but when I do, I get real sick. And unfortunately, I've had to cancel just two races before because had COVID. I was COVID positive, and right before the race, and had to cancel those. But yeah, it seems like I'm always battling some ailment. But those are the two recent ones. Had some lower back stuff before that, but right now I seem to be mostly ailment free.
Yeah. 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 That's where I'm at too right now. I'm ailment free, just rotator cuff issue, but it doesn't bother. None of the high rock stations bother that at all.
That's good.
Yeah. So we'll be ready. We're racing in New York here at the end of May.
Yeah,
So we'll be ready to
sweet.
roll at that one. It'll be interesting to see how good of a time we can pull off.
Indeed.
Maybe close to that sub 1 hour, maybe.
I love the lofty goals you set for us.
Yeah. We're getting closer. We keep chipping away. We'll get there someday.
Someday.
Yeah. All right. What's your athletic background?
I mentioned a little bit of it before. I grew up playing sports, a lot of different sports growing up.
The year-round stuff, right? Like you probably did football in the fall, basketball. It was that.
Yep, you got it. There's,
Yeah.
some overlap occasionally, but I was always playing a sport at some point during the year growing up. Um, while I was in school, um, I didn't start like lifting weights or anything until after I graduated college and was then commissioned into the Navy. That's when I really started working out, started gaining a lot of more muscle mass and
Yeah.
learning about those type of things. For a while, I was just doing the show up to the gym and today is chest and try day and do my three sets and I'm watching TV between sets and whatever and just trying to bulk up. That doesn't work well, obviously, for Hyrox or even OCR.
Yeah.
And I wasn't ever really a runner until recently, right? I didn't just go run or do any kind of running work. I got all my running and kind of cardio from sports, like from tennis and basketball or whatever. But but yeah, now I'm definitely functional fitness, hybrid fitness type stuff when I'm training.
Yep. And in the Navy, you guys got really nice gyms there in the military, don't you?
Most bases have pretty nice gyms. Some are better than others,
Yep.
depending on what base you're at. But for the most part, the military bases have pretty good gyms.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know, because I'm a pilot, obviously at Southwest, I fly with a lot of guys that have been in the different branches of the military, and they all seem to have really nice gyms that they've used over the years when they're in the service. But anyway, if you could eliminate one station at Hyrox, which station would you eliminate?
Oh, geez.
And if you could add a new station, what would be the new station? So you're going to take one out that you absolutely hate, and you're going to put a new one in.
I would probably eliminate a ski. I I know it seems so simple, but I train on that thing and I can't seem to get like to the pace I want,
Yeah,
without just actually being completely gassed. And of course, it being the first station, everyone knows you don't want to burn yourself out on the ski, but I just wish I could be more efficient and faster at the ski. If I had to add a station, I would add something that like there's only really pulling motion, I guess, with the row, and the sled pull, but like something where you've got to be overhead, like hanging, right? Like
yeah,
I want to be able to use my OCR expertise, right?
yes,
Of course, racing, there's a ton of stuff where you're hanging and swinging from and
yeah.
grabbing, pulling up, and um,
So
so
like a monkey
maybe,
bar
yeah, maybe like a 50-foot monkey bars or something,
or
right? That you
ring
have
or
to
something,
traverse,
right?
right?
Rings.
Hanging from them, or yeah, when you put rings in there, it becomes like kind of more skill based, right?
Yeah,
Like OCR, there's a lot of skill involved, whereas High Rocks, there's some skill, but it's 95% just fitness, right? But I would actually love to have some OCR component, right? Because a lot of the what they call the rigs in OCR are more than just rings. It'll be like small little different types of grips,
yeah.
and that would be really cool to have as a station in Hyrox.
Right, right, right. Well, so a lot of people hate wall balls. So you don't hate wall balls, do you?
Oh no, I hate those as well. But I'm aspiring to be you who can do them unbroken. The last couple of relays, I got tagged to do wall balls because no one else wanted to do them.
How'd you do?
I'm still not great at them, but Phoenix was the first time I did them in the relay. And I did not go unbroken, and I took too much rest once I started breaking. But then in yeah, in Miami just now, I did much better. I did much better on the relay. Still didn't go unbroken, but was able to crank out quite a few, and then continue to crank out like 15 to 20 at a time after that.
Yes, yes. What's your favorite station? One that you feel like you feel like you've got good command of it, you're strong, and you can get through it in a decent time.
Um, Maybe sled pull. Like I think I'm pretty good at the sled pull. Thinking about all the stations, sled push, I'm not awesome at. I'm not horrible at. Burpee broad jumps, I'm pretty good at. Um, I'm not great at the row. Not great at lunge. Probably the sled pull.
Right, right. Said pull. Okay. All right. Any funny high rock stories at all?
Um, Twice I've managed to lose my doubles partner in
Oh
a
God.
race. Um, the first time was actually the very first time I ran doubles, and it was with my buddy Ken, who's from Maryland here, and we were running in at the time they called it New York, but it was really Meadowlands at that point. It wasn't on the pier, but anyway, we were running, and I didn't hear him say like, "Hey, I'm gonna grab some water," and so he was a little bit behind me. I didn't hear that. I just kept going to the station, and the next
Yeah.
station was Farmers Carry. Grabbed the kettlebell and just took off with them. Still didn't know he wasn't behind me, but he grabbed water, didn't see that I had taken off, and then he finally realized he's like, "Oh crap!" So he had to like a dead sprint from the water station to try to catch up to me. And there's one of the official photos. You can see him in like a dead sprint behind me
Oh,
as
that's
I'm
good.
getting the kettlebells. That was the first time I lost a partner temporarily. And then the second time was in DC last year. I was running with a buddy, Andrew Corey, who's Canadian, but we ran doubles in DC. On the second run, I kept glancing back to make sure he's back there, and I glanced back and I didn't see him anywhere. Like, so I could turn completely around. I could not find him anywhere. I'm like, well, what the heck? So I actually had to backtrack on without getting anyone's way, go backwards on the track, and I finally saw him. He had completely stopped because his calf had seized up. Now, luckily, he kind of recovered from that. We finished the race and actually did pretty well despite that delay. But yeah, I was running and I'm looking like, where'd my partner go?
Yeah.
He had to stop because of his calf. But yeah, twice I've lost partners, doubles partners in my Hyrox races.
Oh, have you ever overran or underran yet?
Like done an extra lap or
Yeah, done an
done.
extra lap or ran a lap and not, undershot.
No, but there is a related story there. So I just mentioned Andrew Corey. The first race I met him at was Fort Lauderdale. We were both running solo, and we were in the start tunnel, and we thought, just looking at each other's gray hair, that we thought we were in the same age group.
Yeah.
Turns out we weren't. But so we were pushing each other the whole race. Like he was pretty good at the stations, I was good at the runs. So he would pass me on the
Yeah.
stations, I would pass him on the
You're doing
run.
this thing, right?
Yeah. And so we got to, I think it was like run 7. And I was at least a quarter lap like ahead. Like I was a good distance ahead of him and I got race brain. And I could not remember what lap I was on. So I just stopped at the in arch because I knew that Andrew was on the same lap, even though he was behind me.
Behind you.
So I was just going to wait to see what he does. And I knew I was wasting time, but it's like it's better than having to run an extra lap or get a penalty, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to wait to see what he did. Well, to Andrew's credit, and this is how we became friends after this race, just awesome sportsmanship. He saw me from a distance. Like I could see him like around the bend, right? And he saw me and realized what was happening. And he was like, keep going. Like he motioned to me.
Yeah.
And so I, still had another lap to do. And so I kept running. And I truly believe because of him, I made the podium. Like if I'd had to
Yeah.
continue to stand there until he got caught up to me, like so much more time would have been wasted. So just a really cool act of sportsmanship. We talked quite a bit afterwards, became friends, and that's when we decided to run DC later on, the next year. So just really cool. So shout out to Andrew for that. But yeah, never. That was my closest call. I've never over or underrun on the runs, but that was my closest call.
Yes. I had the same similar experience in DC at the championship, the North American Championships. Um, in the solo race, in like the seventh lap, the seventh round of running, I got race brain, and I'm running up to the in arch, and I'm like, oh wait, do I go in or do I keep going? Do I go in or do I? And there was a younger guy that I hadn't realized who was pacing behind me. He was using me to pace, and he saw I was gonna go past the in arch, and he's yelling at me, and he's only like 4 or 5 steps behind me, and he's yelling at me, "No, go in, go in, go in!" And if it wasn't for him, it would have been my first time to give myself I don't know what was DC, 3 laps or 4 laps, I forget what DC was, but I would have overran there, yeah, for sure.
That's what I was saying earlier about the Hyrox community, right? Just the athletes are all just awesome and such a great community that even during the race, when someone else is also racing at the same time, like they're still supportive and helping you make the right decisions and stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, yep, exactly. Okay, so when we're out there running, racing, do you have a favorite jam that plays?
Um, for like fitness, even when I'm working out or training, whatever, I like either hip hop or like heavy rock, right?
Yes.
Those are my two favorite. I don't necessarily have a favorite song or anything, but that type of music is what I mainly listen to when I'm working out.
Yeah, get you going and keeps you motivated. Yeah.
Yeah, Hyrox does a good job with their playlists. I like their playlists.
Yeah, they do. They do pretty good. Yep. And I think all the MCs do a super good job too. Tommy here and
Yep.
Benny, they all do a fantastic job.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then Coach, obviously the DJ, he does a fantastic job. Um, all right, so let's one more question. Somebody newish into Hyrox. What advice would you give for somebody that's new going into the sport? Let's say they have an athletic background. Let's say maybe they're even a triathlon person or sprint triathlon person or somebody that goes to the gym. What kind of advice do you have for them for Hyrox?
I'd say first and foremost, consistency, right? Just showing up for the training. And that's really regardless of whether you're training for Hyrox or something else or just trying to get fit, right? Like be consistent, show up week after week. Um, but Hyrox is 50% running, right? So if you're not a strong runner, like I would say focus on your running, focus on compromised running, right?
Yep.
Your legs are going to be jelly after the sled push and lunges and other stuff. And so practice compromised running. Know the standards as well. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's an important one, and know the rules. Like, I'm apologize, I can't remember their names, but I know there was the two. This is a recent story about the two female runners. I think they're like part of like Great
Yeah.
Britain's
Yeah. The
national
elite, they ran
ever,
in a major in London.
and like were wicked fast running, but like got like 2 minutes or something worth of penalties because they weren't sure of the standards or the rules. And so
Yeah.
I would just encourage folks if they're going to do their first high rocks, there are quite a few rules. Know the rules, know the standards. Be consistent. Find a gym that has like-minded athletes that are also training for high rocks. Again, that community, that camaraderie to help each other out, and ask questions. That's one thing I get a lot. Um, I don't have. I took all my flags that I had in my office and put them up in the gym, and people see like, oh, you're the guy with the flag, and they start asking me a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
Uh, what about this? What about that? And so like seek out people that have experience, whether they've podiumed or not, and just get different opinions on best way to run high rocks and best techniques and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good advice, James. Well, what's next for you? I know obviously we're running here at the end of May. What do you got between now and the end of May?
No Hyrox races. So the next major one is definitely U.S.A. in New York. But I've got one called the True Challenge, where True is TRU, which means the rest of us. It used to be called the Festivus Games. It's kind of like CrossFit Light.
Yes.
Um, I'm doing a three man team for that at Gorillas Fit. So shout out to Gorillas Fit, a sister gym in Maryland. And It's like four wads, and we're competing in the Masters division. And our team name is Ignoring Doctor's Orders. um, so that's coming up on April 18th. I've got a co-ed Deca Mile and Deca Strong in May, um, and then it's just Hyrox New York.
Yes, yes. Looking forward to any of the races next year. Any of the new venues,
Yeah,
Nashville possibly, Tampa.
Nashville for sure. My daughter and son-in-law live in Nashville, so I will. There's a very strong chance I will be doing Nashville. Um, I got to look and see the calendar and see, what do I do. I saw Toronto again. You and I had a good time in Toronto. That was a good venue. I ran Boston last year. I see Boston is back. We'll likely do DC because that's my home turf. Like that's
Yep.
just like a drive away. Um, I don't know if I'm interested in like Denver or Salt Lake City with the elevation, but we'll see. So I got to just look at the calendar and see what's possible and how my training and all that fits in and what else is mixed in there. But yeah, definitely excited that they're doing a lot more U.S. races. And ironically, today I just like a couple hours ago got the email of the ticket drops are coming soon. So
Yeah, what is it? They announced the ticket drop for DC, I think, right?
there's actually four. I think it was
Oh, wow.
DC, Toronto, Boston, and Salt Lake City. I think
Holy
were
cow.
the ticket pre-sale and general access dates were announced.
Right, right. Well, cool, James. let's see. I don't. That's all I got. Thanks for coming and chatting with me today, James. I totally appreciate it. We'll see you. See you at the end of May.
That's right. End of May in New York, where we will crush our pro doubles.
Yeah, for sure. James, good talking to you today. Thanks for being with me today. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul.
All right, bye bye.